BookTube. My name's Katie. I'm a 30-something millennial bookworm who loves reading so much, I decided I want to join the BookTube community. When I was thinking about what I wanted to do for my first video, I had an idea. I thought, what better way to get to know me than by hearing about 5 books that I recently read that I gave 5 stars. So, without further ado, this is Getting to Know Me via 5 of my most recent 5-star reads.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
Let's get to the books already.
First, we have Rembrandt is in the Wind by Russ Ramsey. This is a beautifully written book about art history and faith, and Russ Ramsey brings the lives of famous artists like Rembrandt, Caravaggio, Van Gogh to life, really making them human and diving into their flaws and struggles, as well as the things they did to bring amazing art into the world. I like that he doesn't just look at their works, but their lives as a whole, and it's really inspiring. There were even a few artists he discussed that I thought I knew a lot about, but I was surprised by some of their stories. A theme I love in this book is how beauty can emerge from brokenness. Ramsey ties everything back to God in a way that stirs my heart. I've always been fascinated by how incredible art can come from imperfect, struggling human beings and how it connects me to my creator. This book made me appreciate art and my faith even more, something I would not have guessed possible until I read it. So what does this book say about me? Well, first of all, I think it's pretty obvious to guess if I loved this book that I'm a Christian. Not that you have to be a Christian to enjoy it. I think it's a great book on art history, and if you love art history, you will enjoy it. But that is a big part of why I loved it. Also, as you might have guessed, I love history, art, and storytelling. I'm a major nerd, and that kind of coincides with my desire to learn and to always be learning new things. I love to learn. I was also a teacher for a long time. I've taught on a little bit of this in my history classes, so it's something that really touched on some of my interests. Next up, we have one of my recent major favorites. This is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, and this is a compelling retelling of the classic David Copperfield, but it's set in Appalachia and follows a boy named Demon through his life, poverty, foster care, addiction, and coming of age, with a funny and honest and raw and real narrator. Sometimes tragic, sometimes hilarious, always engaging. I found myself rooting fiercely for Demon through all his ups and downs. Beyond the great story itself, I love the way this book is written. It has made me interested in reading more of Barbara Kingsolver's work. It's perhaps my favorite recent read and one that I did not pick for myself, actually. Shout out to my twin sister for gifting it to me for Christmas. I think this book really represents some fun things about me and my reading. So one thing that it shows as a modern twist on a classic is that I love many genres. I love classic literature. I like young adult fiction. I read fantasy, sci-fi, romance, poetry, theology. I love a little bit of everything. Also, it shows that I really love good writing, and I occasionally will read a book that's entertaining, even if it's not the best writing, but what really wins my heart over is strong writing, strong prose. So that was something I really got out of this book. I also really love the way that Barbara Kingsolver represents a young man in a way that feels very authentic and paints him as a very strong character and gives a complete picture of him. I think a lot of people look down on younger generations, that's a default for a lot of adults, and I have always had a passion for working with young people as a teacher, within the church setting. I've always had a passion for supporting young people. So I love when I see a great representation of a young person, especially a teenager in literature. And I thought this was a great demonstration of that. I also like to say that this book, like me, is dark and twisty, but has a lot of heart. Moving right along is another book that really blew me away. This is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong, and this is a fantasy novel about a character named Sayona who becomes the first female high mage in a place called Tyrion. She deals with a lot of pushback and discrimination. She's ostracized and offered only the school janitor as her research assistant. But it turns out that Sayona and Tomo, her assistant, are both brilliant and end up uncovering a major conspiracy. Don't worry, no spoilers. That challenge the upper echelons of the society in which they live. This book has one of the most creative magic systems I've ever read. It's very thoughtful. It has great political intrigue. It's got profound character development and so much more. Not only did it make the characters take a hard look at themselves, but I found myself looking inwardly as well. It also has the best opening chapter of a book I've ever read. I could not put this book down, and it quickly became a new favorite of mine. This book represents me really well as a reader because I think fantasy is my most favorite genre to read. It is the genre I've probably read the most, and it is just what I gravitate towards. So, especially if there's believable magic and intriguing politics, I'm there. That is my jam. I also love books that make me feel things and think deeply, and that is definitely this book. It made me want to cry. It made me laugh. It made me think more about even just my own view of the real world, which I think is really unique for a fantasy novel. And I know some people like to read fantasy to escape, and I'm definitely in that realm sometimes. But I kind of love that this was a fantasy novel that still kind of made me think about how it could relate to real life. And I think that made it even better and elevated the impact of the book. Next up, we have another great nonfiction book. This is Zen and the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury. And it is basically Ray Bradbury's love letter to the craft of writing. It's a series of essays on writing in which he shares about his creative process, his lessons learned throughout his career, personal stories, etc. I learned so much about writing, of course, but also I love how much I learned about Ray Bradbury that I didn't know. Even though this isn't my favorite book on writing, shout out to Stephen King, it is my most recent favorite. And yes, I do read a lot of books on writing. This really gave me motivation to get back to writing more, and for that alone, it is an important book to me. So no surprise then for me to say that this book represents my love of writing and the fact that I consider myself a writer. I've been working on my first novel after many years of wanting to be a writer and starting stories and never really sticking to them. I have committed to this current book that I've been working on, and I'm getting really close to finishing my first draft. So that's pretty exciting. I also am just obsessed with reading about writers and writing. I love to hear about their process and their philosophy when it comes to writing. So anything to do with books on writing, especially by authors I know and love, I want to read. So this is one of the books that I gravitated towards and absolutely loved. Plus, it's Ray Bradbury, and he is one of my favorite writers. And he writes a lot of sci-fi, which is one of my other favorite genres. So Ray Bradbury, I've been reading for most of my life. So this is a great example of my interests and passions meeting together. Last but most certainly not least is one of my most recent reads, which is Poison for Breakfast by Lemony Snicket. This book is a lot like most Lemony Snicket books, meaning it's clever, it's funny, it's deep, and it's impossible to categorize. It's part philosophy and part mystery, part love letter to libraries. It felt like putting my love into books into words. The book starts with Lemony Snicket eating breakfast and finding a note that says you had poison for breakfast. The rest of the story is the author investigating to figure out what is going on. Meanwhile, he reflects on themes like life, death, literature, grocery stores, the names of birds, and more. It made me laugh, it made me sad, it made me introspective. It was honestly everything I wish I could write in a book. If you've read any Lemony Snicket, you can guess that by loving his books, I am a lover of whimsy. I love books that are clever, witty, that are whimsical, but also that go deep. And I love that that is what Lemony Snicket does so well. So I think that's why I think of his writing style as a type of writing I would love to aspire to. Pairing that with the fact that this is basically a love letter to reading and books and libraries, I think it's a perfect choice for this list. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it gave you an idea of kind of what I am like as a reader. And I'd love to hear what you would put in your top 5 recent 5-star reads and what they say about you. So feel free to share in the comments. And I can't believe I'm saying this for the first time, but like and subscribe, guys. I'd love to build a community here on BookTube. That's why I'm here. I'd love to find new books by getting to know you as well. So please feel free to reach out and share.
And now for something completely different.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Katie, what's up?
You got a word of the day for us?
That I do, my friend. The word of the day is quintessence. From the Latin for fifth essence, this word refers to a fifth element, aside from water, earth, wind, and fire, that was believed to make up the heavens. It is defined as the purest, most perfect example of something. So Katie might say that the books on this list capture the quintessence of what she values in stories.